She bombed. Again. And this time it wasn't a hungry radio host trying to go viral. It was Cam Newton, a man who gave her every soft, smiling, quarterback charm opportunity in the world to simply answer the question. And she still walked out of that studio with her reputation in worse shape than when she walked in. Claressa Shields sat down for what was supposed to be a legacy interview, Love, Boxing, the biopic, the whole victory lap. And instead, she turned it into an hour and 20 minutes of the most self-incriminating audio I have ever heard from a professional athlete. And I need you to understand something before we go any further. Everything you have watched about this situation has been framed around the wrong question. Everybody keeps asking, is Claressa Shields a homewrecker? Wrong question. The real question, the one nobody wants to ask out loud, is why does every single timeline she gives collapse the second you put it next to a calendar? Because we are going to put it next to a calendar today. We are going to take the July 6th story, the 6 months of phone calls, the December exposure, and the engagement ring sitting on her own finger in the photo she calls her anniversary, and we are going to lay them side by side, and when we do, you are going to understand why this is no longer about gossip, no longer about Remy Ma, no longer about Papoose. This is about what happens to a fighter's entire career when the thing that made her great in the ring, that iron-willed, delusional, nobody can tell me anything self-belief, gets let off the leash in front of a microphone. Personally, it is costing her a fight nobody is talking about. Culturally, it is turning one of the most decorated women in boxing history into a comment section punchline. And systemically, it is exposing how podcast media eats athletes alive when the team around them is too busy clapping to tell them the truth. And when we get to the timeline math, and I promise you, we are getting there, you are going to see why I've been saying for months that this fall from grace is not coming. It is already here. Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit like, and subscribe. Let's get into it. Now, for anybody just joining this story, let me orient you fully, because this thing has layers like an onion, and every layer makes you cry a little harder. Claressa Shields. Two-time Olympic gold medalist. Undisputed champion in multiple weight classes. On paper, arguably the most accomplished female boxer of all time, the self-proclaimed GWOAT, and honestly, inside the ring, the resume backs it up. Nobody is taking that from her. I have never taken that from her. But somewhere between the medals and the microphones, the story stopped being about boxing. She began a relationship with Papoose, the Brooklyn rapper, the lyrical miracle guy, the man who spent 2 decades as the devoted husband of Remy Ma, one of the most respected female rappers to ever touch a mic. The problem? Papoose and Remy Ma, as of this recording, are still legally married. No divorce decree has been finalized. There is a child involved, there is property involved, there are years of shared life involved, and by Remy's own public statements, she found out about this relationship in December of 2024 and blew the whole thing up on the internet. Since then, Claressa has been on an apology tour, except she never apologizes. It is a justification tour. Radio shows, podcasts, sit-downs, and now the Cam Newton interview, which was framed, look at the title, Love, Legacy, Why She Chose Papoose, as a soft-focus romance special, and which instead became an autopsy. Meanwhile, and this is the part that makes the whole thing genuinely sad, she has an actual fight coming up against a 42-year-old opponent with a handful of professional bouts, and nobody, and I mean nobody, is talking about it. Every headline, every clip, every comment section is about Papoose, Remy, the DMs, the timeline. The drama has fully swallowed the career. And here is the tension that is going to drive everything we talk about today. She sat in that chair with Cam Newton to prove that the narrative is a lie, and in trying to disprove it, did she just hand us the receipts that confirm it? Keep that question in your back pocket, because by the end of this video, you're going to have your answer. Let's start with the surface. The stuff anybody can go verify right now, today, with their own 2 eyes. Piece number 1, the interview itself. It is up right now, over an hour long, and the first thing you notice is not what Claressa says, it is what Cam Newton's face does. I want you to watch it with the sound off. Seriously. Watch Cam's face. There are at least half a dozen moments where she is mid-answer, mid-spiral, and Cam just slowly turns toward the camera with this look, and if you know, you know. It is the universal expression of, I am going to let her finish, but everything coming out of her mouth right now is completely unserious. That man played in the NFL. He has been in front of cameras for 15 years. He knows exactly what he is doing with that face. He was professional, he let her talk, but his eyebrows were conducting a separate interview. Piece number 2, the comment section. Go read it. I will wait. It is a massacre. Thousands of comments, and you have to scroll like you're digging for oil to find one defending her. This is a two-time Olympic gold medalist getting cooked under an interview about her own life on a platform hosted by one of the most beloved athletes turned media personalities in the culture. That is not bloggers hating. That is the general public rendering a verdict. Piece number 3. Her own Instagram. As of this recording, she is reposting the interview. She watched that hour and 20 minutes back, or at least her team did, and concluded, yes, this one. This is the one we promote. When Miss Chenica asked her one tough question on the radio, Claressa came out swinging, calling her a hater, saying she was set up. Cam Newton asked her the same category of questions, softer, smiling, and she reposted it like it was a victory. What does that tell you? It tells me the smoke was never about the questions. It was about who was asking. Piece number 4, and this one is my favorite because it is so small and so loud, the body language. Every time a relationship question lands, the eyes cut to the side. Off camera. Off axis. She is looking at somebody. A handler, a publicist, somebody doing the throat slash motion like a third base coach having a panic attack. Now, I watch interviews for a living. Tom Brady sits in a chair and looks at the person asking him questions. Kevin Hart leans in. Normal, truthful, unbothered people do not have an air traffic controller stationed off camera. Think about it. What is being signaled? And why does she keep checking for permission mid-answer? And then, piece 5, and this is where surface starts bleeding into something deeper. The stutter. Watch the pattern. Ask her about the Olympics, the medals, the knockouts. She is fluent. She is confident. She is the GWAT. Ask her when she met Papoose, and suddenly it is July 6th. It was at the Shakur fight. Pauses. Stammers. Recalibration. That is not how people recall true events. If I ask you what you had for lunch and you actually ate a tuna sandwich, you just say tuna sandwich. You only search for the answer when the answer has to be manufactured. That is 5 pieces of evidence, all public, all verifiable, and we have not even gotten to the good part yet. And oh, do I have more? Because everything I just showed you is what the camera caught. What comes next is what the calendar caught. And to the Claressa defenders already typing, and I know you're typing, I can feel the keys burning. Before you call me obsessed, before you call me jealous, answer one question in the comments along with everything else. When did she actually meet this man? Because in about 2 minutes, I am going to walk you through her own words, from her own mouth, across 3 separate interviews, and they do not fit together. Not loosely. Not, she misremembered. Mathematically. And somewhere in that math is a photo with a ring on her finger that she calls her anniversary. Stay right there. Now let's go to the cultural layer, because this is where it stops being about one awkward interview and starts being about how the entire culture is processing this woman. Exhibit 1. The Cam Newton moment that already has a life of its own. He asked her, and I want you to appreciate how gentle this was, can I ask a personal question? Was he married? Straight, clean, no ambush. And she said, yeah. She said, yeah. Then, in the same breath, the pivot. But him and his ex, she was with somebody already. Now hold on. For months, this woman has been on every platform that will hold a microphone saying, he is nobody's husband. But when Cam Newton, 6'5", smiling, non-confrontational Cam Newton, asks her directly, was he married? She admits it. Yes, married. So which is it? Because last I checked, marriage is not a vibe. It is a legal status. If 2 people wed and neither has completed a divorce, those people are married. I feel ridiculous even saying it out loud, but apparently we are doing elementary school analogies now, so here is mine. If you buy Skittles and call them Rainbow Yum Yums at your house, congratulations, you have renamed candy. The package still says Skittles. The trademark still says Skittles. And the marriage certificate still says married. Exhibit 2. The baby declaration that came out of absolutely nowhere. Cam did not ask her about having children. Read the transcript. He was mid-thought about the difficulty of juggling public relationships and kids, and she cut him off like she was interrupting a count. We having a baby next year. Cam Newton, a man who has seen everything, just started laughing and said, huh, flabbergasted. She is so desperate to project permanence in this relationship that she is now interviewing herself. And by the way, this is the same woman who said in a different interview that the baby was coming this year. Then it quietly slid to next year, and now on Cam's couch it is next year again. The baby has a more flexible schedule than her fight calendar. Exhibit 3, and this is the one where I have to give the culture its credit. He wasn't supposed to bag the greatest moment. She sat there and said, with her whole chest, that women who come for her are mad because Papoose moved on with somebody younger, on top of her game, with her own money, and that he was supposed to downgrade. Supposed to go find some Instagram model with 2,000 followers, that he wasn't supposed to be able to bag the greatest. The culture heard that in real time and collectively said, wait, did she just insult her own man? Because he was supposed to downgrade is not a compliment to you, sweetheart. It is an insult to him. You only say someone was supposed to fail if you believed failure was his level. And the internet, the comment sections, the reaction videos, the tweets all caught it. She thought she was cooking. Her team was off camera acting like she was dropping heat. And the culture was watching Cam's face instead of hers, which tells you everything about who the audience believed. Exhibit 4. The comparison she keeps begging for. She keeps going at Remy Ma, won't say her name, calls her the ex, which is hilarious because she once declared that if nobody says her name, it is not about her, and now she will not say Remy's name on any platform. The hypocrisy is Olympic level, which is fitting. But here is the cultural reality she cannot spin. Remy Ma is over 10 years older and, in my honest opinion, looks younger. Remy reportedly bought her house outright, cash, over $1 million. Remy is having a legitimate career renaissance, performing, sharp as ever. And Remy has not mentioned this girl in months. The culture notices that one of these women is living and the other one is explaining. One of them is on stage and the other one is on podcasts doing damage control for a relationship that has not produced a divorce decree, a moved-in address, a removed tattoo, or an introduction to all of his children. So when Claressa says people are jealous of what exactly? Now, let me be fair for 1 second, because I am not a monster, and I want to keep my credibility. Could there be a version of this where she is just a woman in love, unfairly dogpiled by the internet? Sure. People fall in love with people in complicated situations every day. Divorce is messy and slow, and nobody's heart checks a court docket first. I can concede that. But here is where that defense dies. The dogpile is not about who she loves. It is about what she says. Nobody forced her to call him her hubby online while he is legally married. Nobody forced her to declare a baby on a platform where nobody asked. Nobody forced her onto microphone after microphone to call millions of people broke, jealous, and miserable. The backlash is not the culture being cruel. The backlash is the culture responding to content she keeps manufacturing. She wants the engagement without the engagement, if you know what I mean. And that brings us to the door of the real conversation, because everything up to this point is behavior. What comes next is machinery. Why is a 2-time Olympic champion being marched out to bomb on podcast after podcast? Who benefits from this? Because I promise you, it is not her. Let's leave the jokes at the door for a minute, because this is the part that actually matters, and it is the part nobody covering this story wants to say plainly. There are 3 systems failing Claressa Shields at once, and until you see all 3, you cannot understand why this keeps happening. System 1. The attention economy of podcast media. Understand the incentive structure here. Every show that books her, and I mean every single one, knows exactly what they are booking. They are not booking the GWOAT to break down her job. They are booking the woman who will say something indefensible about a rapper's marriage, and the clip will travel. Look at the title of the Cam Newton interview again, Love, Legacy, Why She Chose Papoose. The fight is not in the title. The belt is not in the title. Her opponent's name is not in the title, the thumbnail, or the first hour. The shows get the clips get the outrage gets the views, and the views get monetized. She walks in thinking she is controlling her narrative, and she is actually the product. The hosts have figured this out. Some, like the radio hosts, do it aggressively. Cam Newton did it elegantly, asking one-sentence questions and then simply letting her talk, giving her the rope, sitting back, and letting his face do the commentary. It is the same playbook either way. She is the content, and the content is her unraveling. Does everybody understand how crazy that actually is? A woman who conquered amateur boxing and unified divisions is now booked the way you book a reality star. System 2. The team. And this one genuinely frustrates me, because this is where the real betrayal lives. Every great fighter has a corner. The corner's job is not to cheer. The corner's job is to tell you the truth between rounds. Your eye is swelling, stop loading up, box. What her team has done, in my opinion, and watch the footage and tell me I am wrong, is become an audience. You see them in the clips, nodding, hyping, yes, you ate that, while she is saying things that will be clipped, memed, and cooked by breakfast. That is not a corner. That is a cheering section. It is the exact dynamic of parents who coddle a kid until the kid walks into the real world with no antibodies. If your friend is a comedian working out material and you laugh at everything, every joke, hilarious, perfect, don't change a word, you are not helping them. You are setting them up to bomb in front of strangers who have no reason to protect their feelings. That is what happened on Cam Newton's set. She has been told for 2 years that every interview is a win, so she walked into an 80-minute sit-down with no fear and no preparation, and the internet, the uncoddled, unmerciful internet, delivered the honest feedback her team never would. And here is the business consequence nobody mentions. The brand damage is now measurable. A champion defending her title, and ticket interest is quiet. The opponent is 42 with a thin record, and the entire promotional conversation is about the boyfriend. Sponsors watch this. Networks watch this. Legacy watch this. The boxing career has an expiration date stamped on it by biology, and she is spending her remaining prime years as engagement bait for other people's channels. System 3, and this is the deepest one, the validation loop she has built for herself, which is really a machine that eats itself. Watch the economics of it. Positive boxing content does not travel for her anymore. Belt defenses get a polite headline. But relationship chaos? Hubby posts, subliminals at Remy, baby announcements unprompted, that travels. And she knows it. So the behavior escalates. Each statement has to be a little more outrageous than the last to get the same hit, because audiences build tolerance. That is why the claims have gotten progressively stranger, from "he's nobody's husband" to "our lives were never intertwined" to "he wasn't supposed to bag the greatest" to volunteering a pregnancy timeline to a man who did not ask. It is an inflationary spiral of shock. And the machine has one fatal design flaw: it requires the audience to stay stupid. The moment people start laying the statements side by side, the moment somebody builds the timeline, the whole currency collapses, because shock only works while people are reacting emotionally instead of checking receipts. And people, this is where the 3 systems converge into the single most damaging thing I have to say in this entire video. The media machine books her to unravel. Her team applauds the unraveling. And the validation machine rewards the unraveling with attention she has learned to need. 3 machines, 1 woman, 0 breaks. And the reason I know, the reason I can sit here and tell you the wheels are already off, is the timeline. So let's talk about the timeline. Because here is the truth bomb, and I am going to walk through it slowly, with her own words, because her own words are the whole case. She has stated publicly, multiple times, including on Cam Newton's couch, that she did not meet Papoose until July 6, 2024, at the Shakur Stevenson fight in Newark. Did not know him. Did not know he was a rapper. Total stranger. That is claim 1. Claim 2, Remy Ma blew this relationship up publicly in December of 2024. Claim 3, and this is the one she handed Cam Newton like a gift-wrapped confession, her non-negotiable in this relationship was that they go to sleep on the phone together every single night, and she said, and I quote, "They did that for 6 months before everything became public." 6 months. Now, I am not a mathematician, but I can count backwards from December. 6 months before December is June. June of 2024. She claims she met the man in July of 2024. She is telling you, on camera, that she was sleeping on the phone with another woman's husband every night for a month before she ever met him. That is not my accusation. That is her arithmetic. And it gets worse, because there is the photo. She has a photo that Papoose himself has referred to with anniversary language, the photo from the Shakur fight, the day they supposedly met for the very first time. And in that photo, on her fist, is a ring. An engagement ring. From her fiancé. Because at the time she met the married rapper she had never spoken to, she was wearing another man's proposal on her hand. Now let me be responsible here. I cannot tell you the exact day her engagement ended, because she will not say it. And that silence is the loudest exhibit in this entire case. She will give you July 6th to the day. She will give you 6 months to the month. She will give you the theater run of her biopic down to the number of weeks. But ask when the engagement to her fiancé ended, the one fact that would actually clear the overlap, and suddenly the most detailed woman in podcast history has no records. Allegedly, in my opinion, that is because there is no version of that date that does not create a collision. Either she was engaged while phone cuddling a married man nightly, or the 6-month figure is fabricated and the relationship started earlier than she admits, while he was still undisputedly living in his marriage. There is no third option. The math only has 2 doors and both of them lead somewhere she does not want to go. And then, because the universe has a sense of humor, there is the contradiction she served Cam Newton about her own life plan. In an earlier interview, she said her entire life has been mapped out since she was young, and the plan was always to start her family at 30, that she had decided this years ago. On Cam's couch, when she needed the baby to be his idea, the story became, if you had asked me before I met him, I would have said hold off until 35, it was him. He asked me. Same woman. Same life plan. 2 completely different stories, separated by the needs of the moment. So which autobiography is real? The one where everything was destiny and scheduling, or the one where everything is his idea and she is just along for the ride? She does not even seem to notice she has said both. And that right there is the reveal. The interviews are not failing because the questions are unfair. They're failing because there is no stable story to defend. Every sit-down generates a new data point, and every new data point contradicts an old one, and the archive of her own quotes is now so long that she cannot open her mouth for 80 minutes without indicting a previous version of herself. She is not being exposed by bloggers. She is being exposed by tape. Her own tape. And I have been saying this for months. If you have been on this channel, you know I said the fall from grace would not come from a fight loss. It would come from the accumulation of her own sentences. I hate being right about this one. But the receipts are the receipts. And now let me tell you why, at the end of all of this, the right person in this story is still winning, and winning quietly, which is the only way that counts. While Claressa Shields was on her 4th or 5th podcast of the cycle explaining, deflecting, stammering, and announcing babies nobody asked about, Remy Ma was on Angie Martinez's couch saying she is single, that dating is weird after 20 years, and that she is figuring out her own life. That is it. That is the whole energy. No subliminals, no hubby posts, no rage bait. One of these women is being interviewed about her renaissance, new music, new shows, a career resurgence 2 decades into the game. The other is being interviewed about a man. And the scoreboard is merciless. Remy looks younger. Even though she is older, I said what I said. Remy reportedly owns her home outright, paid cash, 7 figures, while the I got my own money speeches keep echoing off Cam Newton's confused face. Remy's name trends for performances. Claressa's name trends for whatever she said on a podcast. Do you see the shape of this? One person lives her life and occasionally lets the public look at it. The other performs her life and begs the public to validate it. And here is the part that should make every fighter and every fight fan nod slowly. The discipline that built the GWOAT is the exact discipline missing from everything outside the ring. In the gym, she never takes a round off. In the media, she has never taken a round off from talking. Silence is a skill. Privacy is a skill. Remy Ma, whatever you think of her, has demonstrated both for months while absorbing public betrayal, and the culture has noticed, which is why every comment section under every Claressa clip reads like a referendum the champion keeps losing. The truth does not need a podcast tour. It just needs you to be quiet long enough for everyone else to talk themselves into a corner. And that is exactly what has happened. The corner is here. The receipts are taped. The timeline does not bend. And through all of it, the woman who was wronged has said almost nothing and won almost everything. And understand this, it is only going to get louder from here, because 2 things are on the calendar that cannot coexist peacefully. First, the fight. She has a title defense coming against an opponent the public has already dismissed, and every interview between now and fight night will be another chance for the timeline to eat another quote. If she wins, the story stays the boyfriend. If anything goes wrong, and in boxing, anything can always go wrong, the story becomes catastrophic. Watch how that plays out, because I will be right here breaking it down. And second, the divorce. The actual, legal, filed in a courthouse divorce, which she herself admitted on camera, takes time, property, a child, years of shared assets. Every filing, every hearing, every report is a new headline cycle, and she has already tattooed herself into the middle of it. So if you want to understand how we got here, how a woman this decorated ended up this exposed, my next video is the one you cannot miss. I am laying out the complete timeline, day by day, message by message, quote by quote, from the DMs to the Shakur fight to the December explosion, with every receipt on the screen. The photo, the ring, the 6 months, all of it. If you are not subscribed, you will miss the moment the whole thing collapses in public, and believe me, it is going to collapse in public. Until then, remember what I always tell you, they can lie in the interview, but the calendar does not do interviews. We unpacked,